Looking into the night sky, Haniel narrates, of the countless people you meet, some just pass through your life and some create resentment. However, at times, a person you thought was simply passing through does not. Admissions officer Song Chan-hee stands in the rain and silently watches her old workplace, Dichi High. She calls Sung Soon, but the college advisory team stares at the ringing phone with trepidation. Yeon-woo suggests looking for an alternative route, and Myung-soo agrees, proposing a collaboration with a prep school for their upcoming informational. Sung Soon tells the group to not let their emotions cloud their judgment when choosing the best option. Against the others' wishes, she answers the phone and tells admissions officer Song to meet in the principal's office. Once Sung Soon leaves, the rest of the team ponders over what she said. In the principal's office, Principal Byun merrily asks the admissions officer for her help with their presentation, and admissions officer Song comments on how the school has changed a lot. None the wiser, Principal Byun asks if she's familiar with their school, and before Sung Soon can explain, the admissions officer says that she heard about them from Professor Jang. Sung Soon escorts the admissions officer out once the meeting is over, and the admissions officer accidentally sprays Sung Soon with water as she opens her umbrella. Sung Soon brushes it off as no big deal, but the admissions officer asks if it's really okay for them if she's the one to attend their event. Both sides avoid the elephant in the room, and Sung Soon slaps on a smile, assuring the admissions officer that they're thankful she's coming this Saturday. Sung Soon bids her farewell until then, but admissions officer Song cryptically replies back, "We'll meet again if we can." Sung Soon returns to the principal's office where Principal Byun warns Sung Soon to do well since the parents have been pushing for a restructuring of their school. Because of the low college acceptance rate, the parents' committee wanted the college advisory department disbanded and reabsorbed back into the third year's department. The news weighs heavily on Sung Soon as she returns to the office, and despite the late hour, the rest of the team waits for her. Though Myung-soo notices Sung Soon's wet blouse, he doesn't comment on it, and instead, he invites everyone out for drinks. In the Icarus study hall, URA reads a post that claims volunteering at a hospital doesn't earn you points. She recalls the time Jae Hyun and his friends talked about his student record, but while she's lost in thought, two other Icarus students come up to her. Since she's the club captain, they ask URA to coordinate a field trip to add to their student record since the second semester exams don't count for college admissions anyways. Though she doesn't answer them, their concerns echo her own as she looks over the admissions qualifications for Hankook University's medical program. Over drinks, Haniel asks Sung Soon why she met the admissions officer in the principal's office, and Sung Soon explains that she was testing to see if the principal would recognize her. Much to her expectations, he didn't. With only 4 days left until their presentation, Sung Soon tells the team that they'll need to make some changes, but before they do that, Yeon-woo wants to know why she thinks this option is better than working with a prep school. Sung Soon tells them that if they lose the admissions officer, then they lose an opportunity to appeal to Hankook University. Admissions officers don't attend high school informationals out of goodwill, but rather, it's a signal from the university that they're interested in the school. Haniel explains in voiceover that this is the perfect chance for Dichi High to prove their worth to Hankook University. While all the neighboring high schools have sent students to the university's medical program over the last 4 years, Dichi High had 0 students admitted. At this informational, they can finally show Hankook University that both the students and their school are improving. Unfortunately, there's only 3 days left, and teacher Song vehemently opposes Sung Soon's request to change the presentation since his department has parent counseling right after them. While they trade barbs, the vice principal asks why she wants to change a part of the informational. Sung Soon tells them that Dichi High hasn't experienced its prime yet, so her department wants to bring the school to its peak. She suddenly belts out the chorus of Kilimanjaro's Leopard, which earns her a shout from the principal, "Then do a good job." Teacher Song returns to his desk in a foul mood, but Teacher Ha is more curious than frustrated since it's unlike Sung Soon to make last-minute changes. As the two teachers talk about the new admissions officer, Ha-won sees her picture and recognizes her immediately. However, he keeps her identity a secret while the others discuss the possibility of having the admissions officer attend their counseling session as well. Meanwhile, the college advisory team struggles with editing their presentation since they can't quite figure out their new angle. Yeon-woo mentions how the school did change a little after Sung Soon's impassioned outburst, so Sung Soon orders Myung-soo to email all the departments and ask for updates on recent changes. The group sighs over the inevitable wave of complaints they'll receive for this request, and everyone sits in silence as they hit another wall. Haniel shares her idea about highlighting growth in their presentation since it's a keyword for Hankook University's admittance evaluations. However, when it comes to actually adding it in, Haniel doesn't have any ideas. With morale low, Sung Soon offers to buy the group ice cream, and Haniel volunteers to go get it. While cleaning the restroom, URA's classmate offers to save her seats in the front for the informational presentation, but URA tells her not to, keeping silent about the fact that her parents aren't coming. Angry with her circumstances, URA takes it out on Jae Hyun, who's also on cleaning duty with her. URA turns off the music playing from his phone, but Jae Hyun ignores her and turns it back on. She retaliates by shutting off his phone, and he confronts her directly about her behavior. URA calls his music distracting, and when she threatens to get the teacher, he steps back, mumbling that poor kids only have pride. His words sting, so URA attacks him back for being a loser whose dad creates his student record. Both of them start shoving each other, but before things get too violent, Teacher Ha spots them and stops their fight. While Haniel picks up the ice cream, she notices a flyer commemorating the shop's 20th anniversary and gets an idea. She shows the flyer to the rest of the college advisory team and explains how the ice cream company initially advertised using their current, successful shop as their image. When the company saw no improvements in sales, they decided to take a different approach. They began advertising their roots from when they were a small shop attached to a gas station, and sales started going up. The rest of team stare at Haniel with blank faces, so she tells them that the definition of growth means first showing that they hit rock bottom. Though it's a risky proposal, Sung Soon supports the idea. To show their improvements, Sung Soon suggests adding the formation of the Icarus Club, but Yeonwoo wonders if that'll help since it's technically an advanced class rather than a club, meaning that there's very little student-lead efforts. While Haniel mulls over his words, she's needed elsewhere and leaves the office in a hurry. Haniel arrives at the third year's department as Teacher Song scolds URA and Jae Hyun for fighting. Jae Hyun asks him why he isn't interested in learning the reason for their argument, but Teacher Song bluntly tells them that he doesn't care about why they're mad because all that matters are their grades. Since Haniel is their homeroom teacher, she must decide their punishment, so she gives them two options: make up and go to the counselor's office or continue fighting and have this reported to the violence committee and written on their student records. The threat of a blemish on their records has both students apologizing and promising to make up. Before they're dismissed, URA uses this time to bring up the field trip idea and suggests a visit to a hospital lab. Haniel asks how they'll do that, and URA glances over at Jae Hyun. Oh, so sneaky. Yeonwoo runs into Hwon in the bathroom, and the latter waits for him in the hallway to bring up admissions officer Song. Hwon comments on how the admissions officer probably won't give her best effort because of her history, and Yeonwoo is clearly offended by his implications. Back in the third year's department, URA leaves the office beaming while the teachers comment on her quick thinking. Her suggestion for the field trip was for Jae Hyun to use his family connection, and it's evident to Teacher Song that URA plans on taking advantage of the other kid's parents to improve her student record. Remembering URA's circumstances and the effort she puts in, Haniel decides to go along with the idea if it means helping the students get into better colleges. Sitting in the hall, Haniel reads a message from Jae Hyun's father, which also includes a gift card. As she gets up to return to her desk, Teacher Ha praises Haniel for her decision to threaten the kids with their student record, and Haniel is baffled by his interpretation of her actions. While the college advisory team works on their presentation, Haniel is distracted by her earlier conversation with Teacher Ha. He asked if she could have the admissions officer stay for their portion as well, but Haniel explained that these requests should be made to Sung Soon directly. Apparently, Teacher Song already tried, but his gifts of food were swiftly rejected. Teacher Ha reminded Haniel of her dual assignment to both departments and voiced his complaints about her favoritism towards the college advisory group. Unable to deny it, Haniel promised to mention his request to the team. During their meeting, Sung Soon asks Myung-soo if he heard back from the other teachers, and she's surprised to hear that he received all their updates already. He tells the team that Teacher Moon told the others to act cooperatively with their department. Both departments worked diligently up to the day of the presentation, which is a hectic affair with parents arriving in droves. To the teacher's shock, parents of lower grades flood the auditorium as well, and Myung-soo updates his team on the situation. They split up the tasks, and Myung-soo takes charge of relocating the parents while Haniel and Yeonwoo wait for the admissions officer. Haniel is glad to see Teacher Yoon when she pops into the college advisory department to assist them, but Yeonwoo receives some bad news: the admissions officer is running late. He orders Haniel to lie to Sung Soon about the admissions officer being here so they don't stress her out even more, and though confused, Haniel complies. Myung-soo attempts to direct the parents to the classroom, but the parents refuse to leave. Teacher Moon speaks up, firmly telling the lower grade parents to watch from the classrooms, and though they grumble, they step out of the auditorium. The female third year's teacher calls Myung-soo a softie and worries about how he'll manage the college advisory department if Sung Soon ever leaves. As the presentation starts, URA desperately calls her mom to no avail, but still waits outside in hopes that she'll come. Inside, Haniel lies to Sung Soon that the admissions officer arrived, and Principal Byun takes the stage to give a short introduction. While they wait for the principal to finish, Haniel notices Sung Soon's nervousness, so she fixes Sung Soon's makeup to calm her. Sung Soon asks her to make her eyeliner longer while she's at it, and Haniel happily obliges. As Haniel works on her makeup, Sung Soon casually asks where she wants to go after the informational, and Haniel suggests karaoke. Sung Soon likes the idea and mentions her old nickname, Sangmundong Cheetah. In the college advisory department, Teacher Yoon sees Yeonwoo waiting anxiously and asks if their guest is late. He recalls Sung Soon's comment about how they didn't remember the admissions officer even though she worked with them for 3 years, and he tells Teacher Yoon that the admissions officer probably won't come. Everyone in the audience yawns as Principal Bune drags out his speech, and Teacher Song motions to him to wrap things up. As soon as the principal exits the stage, Sung Soon enters, but as she looks out into the crowd, she remembers the principal's warning that her department will be disbanded if things go awry. In a moment of panic, she drops the microphone, but quickly regains her composure and picks it up. As if nothing happened, Sung Soon gives the presentation with her usual energy, and Hae-Nyul breathes a sigh of relief. Taking a seat, Hae-Nyul notices Myung-soo's haggard look, but he waves aside her concern and points out Jae Hyun's father for her. With admissions officer Song still missing, Hae-Nyul goes back to the office to check up on Yeon-woo, and arrives just as he asks Teacher Yoon if it's bad for him to not remember everyone at the school. Teacher Yoon tells him that it's only natural to forget, but she does admit that for teachers like her, it would hurt a little if no one recognized her as soon as she retired. Right then, the office phone rings, and Yeon-woo sprints to the gate to verify admissions officer Song's identity. She looks annoyed by the situation, but her expression immediately softens when she sees Teacher Yoon coming towards her. Teacher Yoon instantly recognizes the old teacher and grabs her hands, asking how she's been all these years. As Hae-Nyul watches the two teachers reconnect, she narrates the same thoughts from the beginning of the episode, but this time, she adds, resentment can surprisingly be resolved in a simple way. They escort the admissions officer to the auditorium and are just in time for the crux of the presentation. Outside, URA still waits for her mother, leaving a voicemail that today is important, and having stepped out for a drink, Jae Hyun overhears her pleas. Both students enter the auditorium, but as Jae Hyun takes his seat next to his father, URA has nowhere to go and ends up standing to the side with a teacher. Hae-Nyul notices URA and watches with a concerned expression, and Jae Hyun briefly stares at her as well. Once Sung Soon ends her part of the presentation, Jae Hyun's father is the first to pose a question. He prefaces it with statements about the school's low college acceptance rate, and asks how the teachers plan on guiding the students. Though his comments are harsh, Sung Soon doesn't even bat an eye since she came prepared. She begins by admitting their school's lower prestige and then plays off the gasps from the audience. Everyone knows that Daechi High isn't a first-choice school. She lists off all the problems at their school which contributed to last year's dismal college acceptance rate, their lowest yet. After revealing their rock bottom, Sung Soon changes the tide and informs the audience of all the recent changes their school made. One of those is the Icarus Club, and Hae-Nyul gets up to describe the club to the crowd, pointedly directing her comment to the admissions officer. The plan to show growth works as the audience sways over to Sung Soon's side, and when she introduces the admissions officer to the stage, the crowd's enthusiasm reaches an all-time high. The rest of the informational goes over well, as does the parent counseling session which admissions officer Song attended. After the day's events, Hae-Nyul meets with Jae Hyun's father privately to return the self-written student record and the gift card. Subverting Hae-Nyul's expectations, Jae Hyun's father quietly takes back everything, and then asks about how he could help the Icarus students as she mentioned during the informational. Yeon-woo runs up to admissions officer Song in the hall to personally thank her for today, and addressing her as a fellow teacher, he says it was nice to meet her again. The admissions officer tells him that back then, she thought he lived life as if it was a playground while she treated it like a marathon, but now she realizes that she was wrong. She asks him to pass along her card to Teacher Yoon and leaves. Jae Hyun goes home with his father who hands back the student record he received from Hae-Nyul. As they drive towards the gate, Jae Hyun spots URA standing alone on the road and asks his father to stop the car. After a brief moment of hesitation, he excuses himself from the car to go back to his classroom. The college advisory team returns to their desk and finds energy drinks with heart-shaped notes from Hae-Nyul. Myung-soo thanks her first, and though the others remain quiet, he tells Hae-Nyul that they're also silently expressing their gratitude. Hae-Nyul checks over the attendance sheet and notices that URA's parents didn't show up. As the team wraps things up, Sung Soon leaves first and pushes back their celebratory dinner to next week. Hae-Nyul gets to choose. As Myung-soo teases her about where to eat, Jae Hyun comes in and tells Hae-Nyul about URA standing at the school entrance. While Hae-Nyul rushes out, Jae Hyun wonders to himself if he was overstepping. URA checks her phone call log, and seeing no missing calls, she crouches down and cries. Hae-Nyul finds her by the gate and sits down next to her. She asks URA if she ate anything and tenderly pats her as she weeps. On the day of the informational, Jae Hyun's dad was on a call, defending Hae-Nyul's status as a short-term teacher. It doesn't matter as long as she gets Jae Hyun into a good school. This came as a surprise to Jae Hyun, who'd overheard the conversation. As he prepares for school one day, Dad instructs him to get on Hae-Nyul's good side. Jae Hyun's student record hasn't been submitted yet, so to prevent upsetting Hae-Nyul, she shouldn't find out that he knows of her short-term status. It's now summer vacation and Yi-boon drafts an email urging third-year teachers in particular to complete an initial write-up of the student records before vacation ends. Once it's over, students and parents will examine the records and many complaints are expected. Vice Principal Lee takes over and before sending the mass email, adds that teacher evaluations will take place when school resumes. It's pretty much a warning to do a good job writing the student records because he'll be watching. Sun Soon reads an announcement about the upcoming vice principal promotion which all teachers are asked to complete a peer review for. She ignores Teacher Moon's text inviting her to have a meal with him, likely to lay the groundwork for his promotion. Summer passes in a flash and on the first day back, Hanyul's students are extra sweet, showering her with compliments. "You look like that actress, Seo Hyun-jin, ha!" Though other teachers are just arriving, Sun Soon's already working, deep in discussion with a parent. Myung-soo finds her job difficult, while Hanyul gushes that she's cool. Principal Byun abruptly makes an announcement about teacher evaluations, heavily suggesting the students to give their teachers a perfect score. Similarly, Teacher Song sends an email to all faculty, encouraging them to give each other full points. Myung-soo finds it pointless since not everyone will keep their promise. Hanyul's shocked to learn that kids tend to write mean comments about teachers since the evaluations are anonymous, and is reassured that other teachers can't view them. Yeon-woo and Sung soon begin to receive a string of texts from different students who are clearly trying to earn brownie points by sharing that they gave them perfect scores. Teacher Han gathers Hanyul and a few other short-term teachers to discuss an issue with students who join two clubs. The combined comments are too long, so one of the teachers will have to shorten their write-up. Icarus is deemed more important as it gives students a better chance to get into college. The others are instructed to shorten their comments while Hanyul is asked to write more. The new short-term teachers take offense to this and decide not to put as much effort into the student records going forward. Jae Hyun's friends are discouraged by the Creative Experience Department only paying attention to the Icarus students. They spot Hanyul taking out the trash and rush over to help her. She remembers them as the students who complained about her to Yi Boon, but they're friendly now, offering her a drink. She smiles when even Jae Hyun gives her some mandarin oranges, and the boys promise to visit her later. 85 days until the CSAT, URA interrupts Teacher Han's math lesson to request self-study time. Teacher Han agrees on the condition that nobody falls asleep, but not even a second after she says this, Jae Hyun puts his head down and ruins it for the others. Although he apologizes, albeit half-heartedly, it's too late and he's called to the office after class. Myung-soo finds Hanyul obsessing over her gifts from the students. It's adorable how the smiley face she drew on the mandarin looks exactly like her. He's about to give her advice on student records when students storm in to report that Jae Hyun's in trouble. Hanyul rushes over to where Class 5 is anxiously watching Teacher Han lecture Jae Hyun for looking down on the teachers. She ushers the students away and they complain that Teacher Han always threatens them with their student records. When Jae Hyun comes out, his classmates surround him with concern. Teacher Son learns from Yeon-woo that the Office of Education wanted increased parent participation, so Vice Principal Lee texted parents about teacher evaluations using the teachers' phone numbers. Sun Soon is mainly offended that they have to beg for 5 points. All the homeroom teachers for the third years agreed to speak to the vice principal during lunch. They plan to tell Hanyul not to do anything considering that she's new and would feel uncomfortable being put in that position. Sun Soon's ready to rip him a new one and tells Teacher Son that he'd better show up. Once it's time to complain, only Yeon-woo and Sun Soon are in attendance. They awkwardly stand before the vice principal and when Teacher Ha arrives late, Sun Soon throws him a sad look as if to say, "Yep, this is everyone." Sun Soon requests an apology for sending the texts without consent. Vice Principal Lee doesn't see any problem with asking parents to give them full points, but Sun Soon expresses that they didn't work hard just to get a high score. Teacher Han nods in support, but when confronted by the vice principal, he is too scared to back her up. Yeon-woo agreeing with Sun Soon sets off Vice Principal Lee and the three leave the office looking defeated. Teacher Song, who witnessed the events, appeals to the vice principal by calling Sun Soon disrespectful and Yeon-woo rigid. Vice Principal Lee decides to teach the college advisors a lesson. As the day goes on, Vice Principal Lee harasses the college advisory team with criticisms such as Myung-soo laughing too hard and therefore not being respected by students, Hanyul not smiling enough, and Yeon-woo wearing a bracelet that is too flashy and will apparently set a bad precedence for students. Teacher Son tells Sun Soon to think about the teachers that are under her wing before rebelling. The principal may have Sun Soon's back, but nobody's protecting the other three. She argues that these office politics are irrelevant and their teaching is what matters, but the reality is that when the higher UPS like you get things like performance bonuses and preferential assignments. The school's also about to decide on the permanent teacher next week. Teacher Son warns that Hanyul will become a victim in her power struggle. He leaves Sun Soon with, "Don't regret it again like you did that other time." At lunch, Yi Boon expresses her dislike for Jae Hyun and that it was a matter of time before he got in trouble. Teacher Han guesses based on her own experience, she taught Jae Hyun for 2 years, that Hanyul must have had a hard time dealing with him and his dad. The Jae Hyun talk continues outside by the soccer field. They don't notice that Jae Hyun is nearby and overhears all the terrible things they have to say about him. Teacher Shim hated him and how his dad harassed her about student records, so she used vague wording on his student record, refusing to write anything nice. Noticing Hanyul's expression, Teacher Han says that if kids badmouth teachers, then teachers should be allowed to do the same. They go as far as to attack Jae Hyun for his looks, but Haenyul defends him saying that he has a nice, deep smile. Myung-soo overhears Jae Hyun's friends discussing how happy Haenyul was just because they sucked up to her. They decide to ask her to write their student records instead of their own homeroom teachers. Vice Principal Lee continues to complain about the college advisory department while out at a restaurant, and Teacher Ha joins late. It seems like Teacher Song created this opportunity for Teacher Ha to apologize about taking part in the confrontation earlier, and he's let off the hook with a warning to be more careful. The topic changes to the appointment of the new vice principal, and although Teacher Moon taking that position is pretty much a done deal, he worries about the peer reviews. Any teacher that's worked with him for 3 years must participate, and Teacher Song says that he'll need pretty much all perfect scores due to a grading curve. Teacher Ha assures Teacher Moon that anyone on their side will give him a rave review, but worries that any teachers who may harbor ill feelings towards them may affect his score. Teacher Moon calls Sung Soon's mobile that night, but she refuses to pick up. The current weather takes Teacher Moon back to a rainy day in the past when Sung Soon had confronted him. One teacher had resigned and another's contract was not renewed, but all Teacher Moon had to say was, "That's unfortunate." She was clearly disappointed that he didn't stand up for a teacher in his own department, but he responds that they shouldn't have crossed the line. After some thought, Myung-soo decides to take Haenyul out for a serious chat. She's been overwhelmed by the number of student records that she needs to write, so he explains that all teachers have their own processes. Teacher Ha prioritizes those with the highest grades, and Teacher Song makes the students most likely to get into college write their own comments. Though it's technically not allowed, it's impossible for one teacher to write hundreds of student records and accurately capture each student's personal story. Myung-soo has to break it to Haenyul that the students who've suddenly been acting nice to her have their own agenda. Though some of them may genuinely care about her, most are doing it for their student records. He urges her to take care of herself before helping others, and she needs to get back to her own work. After all, the permanent position will be decided on soon. Disillusioned by Myung-soo's words, she walks through school the next morning seeing all the smiles in a different light. The boys come to visit her and she hides their gifts that she'd been treasuring. Jae Hyun looks at his friends as they give Haenyul some notes they've written that they'd like her to add to their student records. Myung-soo had told Haenyul the night before that Jae Hyun's probably aware that she's a short-term teacher because his father knows. She thinks to herself that Jae Hyun's been looking down on her this whole time, which is why he must be here now, but he actually has no requests for her. He even seems wary of his friends and drags them away when they suggest giving Haenyul a perfect score in exchange for writing their records, a win-win situation in their eyes. Teacher Moon enters the third year's office and addresses Ha-won directly to dispel the hiring nepotism rumors, not wanting it to affect his candidacy to be promoted. Ha-won admits that he thought it was unfair when he heard the rumors, but tells Teacher Moon not to worry because he knows they're not true. Vice Principal Lee scolds Yeon-woo in front of the other teachers for using a microphone to teach his classes. Teacher Shim defends Yeon-woo, his broadcasts and regular classes are doing a number on his throat, but that gives the vice principal more reason to criticize him. Seeing Yeon-woo apologize meekly, Sung Soon openly retorts that other teachers use mics too and accuses the vice principal for picking on Yeon-woo. This leads to the two having a long, private discussion while Yeon-woo nervously waits outside. Haenyul looks at the materials the boys dropped off for their student records and mutters that this isn't fun. Myung-soo advises her to just write them briefly and curse the students on the inside. Sung Soon suggests they head to karaoke to relieve some stress. While Myung-soo performs a sad ballad alone, the other three fill up on beer. Sung Soon cuts him off when the song reaches its climax and changes it to an upbeat one. She's joined by Yeon-woo and Haenyul who absolutely kill it with their robotic tambourine dances, and the three of them belt out the lyrics, leaving their worries behind. Haenyul supervises the Icarus study hall and when Jae Hyun greets her, she can only think about the fact that Jae Hyun knows about her short-term status. She recalls his dismissive behavior from the beginning of the year, but she's not aware that he didn't know at the time. The teacher evaluations are in, and teachers check their reviews. Teacher Song's average of 4.33 hangs over his head as he claims that there's a traitor amongst them that scored him poorly. Teacher Han reads her students' comments which consists of complaints about her teaching, and one even cursed her out. She scoffs that they have no respect, and wonders to herself, was it him? The advisors discuss the evaluations. Yeon-woo coughs as he humble brags that he has never received any bad comments, which hurts Teacher Han's pride, as she's standing nearby. Haenyul hands him a spray for his sore throat, and Myung-soo jokingly complains, "Why do you only care about him? I'm totally hurt right now." An Icarus student unlocks the study hall doors, shocked to find it completely destroyed. He reports this to Haenyul and all four teachers make their way there. Everything's completely soaked, books are damaged and strewn over the floor, and the lockers have been vandalized with the words, "Die, Icarus." Jae Hyun was the one in charge of locking up and with an obvious preconceived bias against him, Teacher Han blames him. Yeon-woo diffuses the situation, asking Teacher Han to step outside with him after giving Jae Hyun a reassuring rub on the shoulder. Myung-soo also gives him a brief pat on the back, but Haenyul just watches Jae Hyun expressionlessly. Teacher Han accuses Yeon-woo for butting into her business, but he did it because it wasn't Jae-hyun's fault. She attacks him for thinking he's a hot shot because the students all like him. She attributes that to his young age, implying that it's the reason why students don't like her. He suggests her to think about why students act like that. He'd overheard Jae-hyun's friends discussing the creative experience department's favoritism towards Icarus kids. Myung-soo and Hae-nyul sort the trash and he recalls the same thing happening to the advanced class 3 years ago. He tells Hae-nyul it's not her fault, and he can't believe that teacher Han would blame a kid. Hwon looks over his completed student records and locks them up. He completes the survey for Teacher Moon, scoring him highly and leaving good comments. Teacher Moon calls Sung-soon using the school phone this time, but Yeonwoo picks up instead. Sung-soon overhears Vice Principal Lee telling Principal Byun that Yeonwoo should quit the EBC job next year, feigning concern and claiming that Yeonwoo is overwhelmed. She doesn't speak up about it, but seems to be bothered. When she sees Yeonwoo coughing in the office, Teacher Son's advice to think about the teachers under her pushes her to consider Teacher Moon's invite to have a meal. When Jae-hyun sees Hae-nyul at a convenience store, he puts on the teensiest little smile and makes himself presentable before greeting her. So cute. She's not exactly ecstatic to see him and Jae-hyun seems to understand why. He explains that he didn't visit her office to talk about his student record. He really just wanted to see her, and he doesn't usually visit teachers because they all hate him. This gets Hae-nyul to soften up a bit. He parts way with Hae-nyul with a full smile on his face. Jae-hyun shares that the students discussed visiting her next year after they graduate, which reminds her of when her friends had asked Young-ha if he would teach them next year. She narrates, "That was probably foreshadowing what will happen in my life." Jae-hyun promises to visit with the others and bids her farewell, leaving Hae-nyul emotional. I should stay here, she thinks. That night, she reads her overwhelmingly positive feedback from both parents and students. She sees the comment that says I'll visit after I graduate and tears up. Hae-nyul looks at the smiley little orange that Jae-hyun gave her and decides that she needs to be at Daechi High next year as well. Sung-soon finally has that meal with Teacher Moon. At home, Hwon scrolls through the open recruitment page for the permanent positions. They're hiring one permanent teacher for Korean, math, English, and physical education each. With more than enough reason to stay, Hae-nyul also pulls up the recruitment page. Later that night, Hwon stumbles upon something unexpected. The new recruit teacher Jang is with the chief of administration and calls him uncle. Epilogue: the traitor that betrayed Teacher Song was none other than Teacher Ha. He'd given Teacher Song the lowest possible score on every category and then turned around and suggested that they go on a coffee break, with Teacher Song none the wiser. At home, Hae-nyul thinks back to Jae-hyun's comment about visiting her next year, and a smile spreads across her face as she quietly gushes about her adorable kids. She suddenly remembers the job openings at her school and checks the online forum for updates. After seeing the open permanent position for her subject, Hae-nyul sighs, knowing that competition will be fierce, but with determination, she tells her mom that she'll get the job. Elsewhere, Sung-soon shares a silent meal with Teacher Moon and steals the last shot of soju from him. Frustrated with the awkward tension, Teacher Moon asks why she's behaving so uncooperatively, but she shoots back, "Are we supposed to be bonding as colleagues right now?" They both know that they're only here to exchange favors. She needs him as a buffer between her team and the vice principal, and he needs her to give him a good review for his upcoming promotion. Teacher Moon asks if she's still upset about the incident years ago, but Sung-soon just stares back and cocks her head to the side. Flashing back, a younger Sung-soon walked to school and found a couple of reporters asking for an interview. However, when Sung-soon pretended to notify the principal, they scurried away. Once Sung-soon entered the school, she took the stairs to avoid the other teachers who talked behind her back within earshot. They blamed her for causing their school problems and making 2 teachers quit, then scoffed at her audacity for accepting the head advisor role. Sung-soon glared at the rude teachers who quickly averted their gaze, but she looked equally hurt at the sight of Teacher Song, who stood nearby and remained quiet. Back in the present, Sung-soon asks Teacher Moon if he's talking about the time he and Teacher Song betrayed her. When he lets out a sigh, she assures him that her evaluation will be fair. She knows that he's competent enough for the position, but if he does lack something, then it's loyalty. He asks if she knows why he wants to become the vice principal, and Sung-soon guesses that it's because he's getting older and teaching is becoming more difficult. Sung-soon pays for dinner, and as they leave, she comments on how Teacher Moon always seems to get the better end of the deal. Before he can respond, she tells him that their talk went well and reminds him that it's a give-and-take situation. Hwon walks back to school since he forgot something, but stops in his tracks when he spots Teacher Jang get into Administrator Yu's car and call him uncle. As it turns out, Administrator Yu isn't just any school employee but a powerhouse himself, since he's the nephew of the school's chairman. At school, the principal and vice principal catch Administrator Yu trying to smoke on school grounds and scold him for breaking the rules. There's a tense air between them as Administrator Yu goes back inside, and once he's gone, the vice principal calls him the real authority at their school. His comment irks the principal, but in end, he also agrees that it's nice not having the chairman around the school as often as before. While Hwon drifts down the school hallway, the sight of teacher Jang reminds him of the day he first suspected nepotism at their school. He greeted teacher Moon, who just exited the administration office, and from inside, he overheard Administrator Yu asking for a niece to be hired as a short-term teacher. In the college advisory department, Hanyul wonders if she should ask Yeonwoo about the upcoming permanent teacher exam but decides against it since he took it years ago. Meanwhile, Sung Soon meets with two concerned mothers who ask her about school recommendations to Hankook University. As per the university's policy, schools can only make 2 student recommendations a year, and the high schools have sole discretion over who to choose. Despite Sung Soon's attempts to keep the process private, the mothers ask if Daechi High will split the recommendations between the sciences and liberal arts like they do every year. Since only one science student will receive a recommendation, Jae Hyun will get it over URA since he placed first. Myung-soo asks how all the top science students ended up in Hanyul's class, and she jokes, "It's because they take after me." She tells the others that both Jae Hyun and URA want to apply to Hankook University's medical program, and unbeknownst to them, the principal overhears their conversation. He beams at the thought of their school sending 2 students into the most prestigious program, and looks determined to make this future happen. Of the short-term teachers, only teacher Jang submitted an application since her department is hiring, and the other 2 decide to study for the teacher certification exam instead. As they ride the elevator, they gossip about who the school will choose, Hwon or Hanyul. All the available department heads meet in the principal's office to discuss the hiring process. This year the department heads will also provide input on the candidates since many short-term teachers will apply, and of those applicants, the chairman specifically asked about Hwon's progress. Contrary to his initial praises of Hwon, teacher Moon firmly states the need to choose the most qualified teacher, not the longest employed. He mentions the importance of character, and the other teachers look confused by his puzzling remarks. After the meeting, teacher Son wonders what caused teacher Moon to experience a sudden change in heart, and he cautiously asks if it's because of Hanyul. Sung Soon reminds him that the nepotism rumors were false, but he argues that a permanent position is on a whole different level. Back when teacher Moon was the head of the research department, Sung Soon barged into his office and asked why she was wrong for pointing out 2 teachers who accepted bribes when choosing textbooks. Teacher Moon shouted back at Sung Soon, telling her that her mistake was sharing school matters with outside personnel. As a result of this scandal, the school's effort to become an autonomous private high school were thwarted. Remembering this past confrontation, Sung Soon tells teacher Son that teacher Moon would never do anything to harm the school, including hiring his niece based off nepotism. The principal follows through with his plans on changing the Hankook University school recommendations, and the college advisors discuss the ramifications of giving both recommendations to science students. While the decision is technically legal, Myung-soo predicts that the liberal arts homeroom teachers won't be happy with this choice. During dinner with the third year's department, teacher Ha expresses his disapproval of the recommendations to Principal Byun, but the principal explains how the top science students in Hanyul's class are both applying to Hankook University's medical program. Of the teachers in attendance, Hwon looks especially glum since the top liberal arts student is in his class, and from down the table, teacher Jang secretly smirks at him. Teacher Moon sits at his desk thinking about the earlier meeting, and convinced that Hwon is the forum poster, he vows to stop the school from hiring him. On his way out, he runs into teacher Yoon, and they briefly talk about the hiring process. Though she's also a department head, teacher Yoon doubts her input will hold much weight since she's retiring next year, but all the same, she wishes the best for Hwon. Before they leave, teacher Moon asks if she has some free time tomorrow night. At the third year's department dinner, Hwon bumps into teacher Ha while going to the restroom, and the latter pulls him aside to talk. Unsurprisingly, teacher Ha's main concern is himself since the second-place liberal arts student is in his class. He needs Hwon's student to get the recommendation so his student won't be pushed back, i.e., apply to a lower-ranked college. While they might not have enough power, teacher Ha trusts the parents will come through and cause a fuss. As projected, the teachers at Daechi High fend off angry phone calls from parents complaining about the favoritism towards the sciences. From the offices to the classrooms, the mood in the school sours, except for Hanyul's class since now Jae Hyun and URA will receive school recommendations. Myung-soo suggests to the other advisors that they hang out in Hanyul's neighborhood, but as they discuss after-school plans, a horde of students march into the third year's department. They demand an explanation about the recommendations, so teacher Ha directs their complaints to teacher Song. Adding fuel to the fire, teacher Song tells them that science classes are harder than liberal arts classes. Korean teachers Hanyul and Sung Soon both gawk at him from outside. When voices escalate, Principal Byun steps in and silences everyone. In the Icarus study hall, a classmate asks URA if she's taking the advanced science exam and wonders if applying to Hankook University is too much of a gamble. URA mulls over her words since her scores on the mock test for the advanced subject barely make the cut. To fix the current unrest at their school, Principal Byun asks the teachers for their opinions on the situation, and the liberal arts homeroom teachers voice their dissent. Since Hanyul's class is directly affected, the principal asks for her thoughts, and choosing her words carefully, Hanyul says that URA will apply to the medical program no matter what happens. Given the standstill, the principal turns to Sung Soon for a solution. Teacher Moon shares drinks after work with Teacher Yoon and tells her that Ha-won spread rumors about the school. Back in the office, Ha-won packs up his things to leave when Teacher Jang's phone rings on her desk. Since she just left, the others ask him to return it to her, and he complies. He manages to spot Teacher Jang in the hall, but when he sees the caller as Administrator Yu, he decides to secretly follow her. He watches her go inside the administration office, and listens to Administrator Yu wish her good luck on the exam. Worried that someone might overhear, Teacher Jang goes to close the door, but by then, Ha-won has already left. Having been the forum poster all along, Ha-won finally realizes his grave mistake. Meanwhile, Teacher Yoon ponders over the same issue, having heard Teacher Moon's speculations. During their talk, she asked him to keep this information a secret from the others until she spoke with Ha-won directly. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Teacher Yoon calls Ha-won to meet tonight. Hae-nyul chaperones the Icarus study hall where only Ura and Jae-hyun remain. She silently hopes things work out for them, especially since the school decided to give both recommendations to the science students. Teacher Son hears of the decision from Sung Soon and is rather bummed by the show of favoritism. Sung Soon agrees with his assessment, which is why she added a condition: the school will give both recommendations to the top science students only if they meet the requirements for the advanced science exam on the upcoming mock test. Hae-nyul stops Myung-soo while on his way out and asks if he could help Ura and Jae-hyun study for the advanced science exam. Meanwhile, Ura struggles with her studies and starts to doubt her decision to apply to Hankook University. She looks over at Jae-hyun, who also looks frustrated, and asks if he's studying for the advanced science exam as well. The two students bond over their mutual exam woes and share their fears of not passing. Just as Ura wonders if she should give up on Hankook University, Yeon-woo walks by and overhears their worries. Jae-hyun asks Ura what they'll do if one of them doesn't get the recommendation, but she avoids answering and replies, "Isn't Korea's college admission system the worst?" Jae-hyun cracks a small smile at that and offers Ura some snacks. As they complain some more about the ridiculously high standards to get into college, Ura apologizes for hitting Jae-hyun and looking at his book. He apologizes for swearing at her, too, and they both laugh. Teacher Yoon buys Ha-won dinner, and in her usual, tender manner, she wonders if he has anything to confess to her concerning Hae-nyul. Ha-won seems to realize what she's talking about, and looks down at the table as she asks him to tell her everything. At school, Teacher Yoon finds Ha-won staring at Hae-nyul and gives him an encouraging word. During dinner, she advised him to confess to Hae-nyul about his deeds and seek her forgiveness. Taking her advice to heart, Ha-won gathers up his courage and approaches Hae-nyul's desk. They move outside to talk, and Ha-won bows deeply. He apologizes for posting the rumor about her, but Hae-nyul tells him it's alright since she already heard about it from Teacher Moon. She thinks it's all in the past, but Ha-won tells her that someone did get hired through nepotism. In the cafeteria, Hae-nyul and Ha-won sit at the table next to the other short-term teachers. No longer afraid of their judgment, Hae-nyul turns to the others and asks Teacher Jang the same question that was thrown at her: did she always know her uncle worked here? Teacher Jang feigns ignorance, but Ha-won admits to seeing them together in the administration office. Hae-nyul addresses Teacher Jang once more and tells her that even though she really wants to stay at this school too, what Teacher Jang did to her was wrong. Feeling betrayed, the other short-term teachers leave Teacher Jang behind, and when she chases after them to explain, they accuse her of framing Hae-nyul. Teacher Jang points out that the other two were the ones who always badmouthed Hae-nyul, which only makes the other teachers more defensive. They threaten to file a complaint, and Teacher Jang scoffs at the idea. Myung-soo gives extra lessons to Ura and Jae-hyun, but Ura hangs her head when she messes up her test. After class, Myung-soo returns to the office and finds Sung Soon giving one-on-one guidance to Hae-nyul, which annoys the two male advisors. Interrupting Hae-nyul and Sung Soon's discussion, Myung-soo asks Hae-nyul if Ura really wants to go to Hankook University since she looks like she's wavering to him. Just as Myung-soo pointed out, Ura continues struggling with the exam topic and leaves the study hall in frustration. While Sung Soon is out of the office, Myung-soo invites the others to dinner without their head advisor since tonight's menu is seafood, something Sung Soon hates. Sung Soon returns before they settle on what to do, so the others silently discuss dinner plans. In voiceover, the college advisors agree to eat dinner without Sung Soon, but right on cue, Sung Soon asks if they're meeting outside of school without her. She correctly guesses that Myung-soo is the mastermind, and the others try to stifle their surprise. Hae-nyul's face drops when she turns around and finds Ura at the door. She wants to forfeit her school recommendation for Hankook University and apply to an easier medical school. Hae-nyul recalls their previous conversation when Ura shared her financial situation, so she reminds Ura of her goal for a permanent position life. Yeon-woo watches stone-faced as Hae-nyul asks Ura to give it her best, and when Ura leaves, Yeon-woo hesitantly voices his opinion. He thinks Ura's choice to pick an easier program is realistic and tells Hae-nyul that their roles are just to advise, not choose or push students in certain directions. If a student fails, then they'll resent the advisors, which is what makes their job so tough. Despite Yeon-woo's good intentions, Haenyul defends her decision and tells him that URA is like her. Therefore, she knows that URA will eventually come to the same conclusion and not give up. Pausing between her words, Haenyul explains that she really wants to become a permanent teacher, too. She hopes to teach the students while at peace someday, and her words bring Yeon-woo back to when he was a short-term teacher. Just like how she'll try harder, Haenyul wants URA to do the same. After their conversation, Yeon-woo steps out and watches URA in the study hall, still trying her best despite the setbacks. After the mock exams are taken and graded, Teacher Ha bursts into the office and congratulates Ha-won since his student will get the recommendation. One of the science students didn't meet the requirements, and Haenyul looks at URA's grade with a heavy heart. Myung-soo and Sung-soon try to encourage Haenyul that URA could still get in with a regular application, but Yeon-woo just sighs before leaving the office. In the Icarus study hall, URA looks at the notes on her desk messages to herself to get into Hankook University and holds back her tears. URA ends up outside Haenyul's office, but while she hesitates to go in, Haenyul spots her and meets her in the hall. She apologizes to URA, and the latter is taken aback by the display of vulnerability. She tells her teacher that it's not her fault, and the two return to Haenyul's desk to start a regular application for Hankook University. Ji-hye holds a prayer ceremony for the upcoming CSAT and college application season, and later at home, Haenyul prepares for her exams. With only 3 days left until the big test, Yeon-woo and Myung-soo wrap gifts as they complain about having proctoring duty. Since today is the last day of classes, they imagine what Haenyul's and Sung-soon's class are like, predicting that Haenyul will cry and that Sung-soon will, well, be Sung-soon. Sung-soon's class complains about the CSAT and how the required pencil changed at the last minute, completely ignoring their teacher's attempts to try and foster a final bonding moment. In the end, Sung-soon barks at her class to get their heads on straight and stop complaining because 2 years ago, the CSAT date even changed. In Haenyul's class, Haenyul hands all her students a handwritten letter and snacks from the parents' committee when URA starts to cry. It sets off a chain reaction until all the girls become teary-eyed, including Haenyul. Yeon-woo and Myung-soo happen to pass by just then, and gape at the classroom, shocked that they were right about Haenyul crying. Sung-soon joins them, so they ask how her class went. Got to raise them tough, heh. Myung-soo comments on the busy upcoming weeks for Haenyul, and they discuss her chances of getting hired. Sung-soon mentions Ha-won who will be competing as well, and they all decide to congratulate their youngest member no matter where she ends up. They even got her chocolates, which they plan on gifting her today. Teacher Yoon finds the college advisors in the hall and takes Sung-soon away for a private word. After debating on whether or not to tell Sung-soon, Teacher Yoon ultimately decides that the issue is too important to keep secret from her. Haenyul returns to her desk after class and finds chocolates and a letter waiting for her. It's a note from Myung-soo, encouraging her to do well on her tests, and regardless of where she chooses to go, they'll always root for her. Signed Myung-soo, Yeon-woo, and Sung-soon. Haenyul is moved to tears by the present, and after composing herself, she makes a phone call and asks someone to meet later today. As Sung-soon goes to her car, she sees Ha-won leave the school as well. She thinks back to what Teacher Yoon told her about the forum post Ha-won wrote online. Since he confessed, they guessed that he was trying to tell them not to pick him for the permanent position, but there was even more upsetting news. While the rumors about Teacher Moon and Haenyul were fake, there still seemed to be a case of nepotism at work. Haenyul meets with Teacher Moon at school and asks him if he wants her to pass or fail. Either options aren't ideal for him since people will always assume the worst, so Haenyul asks him for a favor. She wants him to be as fair as possible in the upcoming hiring process. As Teacher Moon leaves the room, he sees Administrator Yu on one side of the hall and Teacher Jang on the other. Watching these two in a new light, he remembers Haenyul's final words, even if there really is a parachute, please be fair and make sure that person can't push their way in. Haenyul urges Teacher Moon to be as fair as possible when making the hiring decision. She entrusts him with preventing anyone who's relying on nepotism from successfully making it. The next day, Administrator Yu heads into his office and Teacher Moon contemplates the sign on his door which reads, Seoul strives for integrity in education. On the day of the CSAT, Myung-soo picks Haenyul up with Yeon-woo and Ha-won in tow. Haenyul has prepared some snacks, and everyone's in a great mood. It's mentioned that URA and Jae-hyun will take their exams at the same school, and Yeon-woo muses that those who struggle together form deep bonds. The guys give Haenyul some pointers since it's her first time proctoring the CSAT. Students could file civil complaints for loud footsteps, strong perfume, and other students coughing. Yeon-woo worries that the change in pencil will spark an onslaught of problems and Haenyul deadpans that South Korea must be a land of civil complaints. Myung-soo teases her, stating seriously that if she gets sued, she'll have to go to court all alone and stand trial. Yeon-woo morbidly adds, you're alone in life anyways. You're born alone and die alone, effectively scaring Haenyul, who hopes that nothing will happen to her today, haha. The testing goes well, with the exception of a few broken pencils that makes Haenyul resent the switch. After a morning of exams, URA gains some newfound motivation from reading Haenyul's encouraging letter. She notices that her peers are enjoying lunch with their friends, so when she catches Jae Hyun walking past her classroom, she invites him to eat with her. The teachers at Daechi High wrap up a busy day of exam supervision. Teacher Moon's gaze lingers on Sun Soon, recalling that the department head's opinions are going to be important when hiring this year. Sun Soon's happy to be invited to dinner by Teacher Yoon, but her face falls to see Teacher Moon at the restaurant waiting for them. Sun Soon recalls her previous conversation with Teacher Yoon about Hwon, where she'd learned that although he'd made a mistake, there really was something shady about the short-term teacher hiring process. Teacher Moon eases into the topic by noting that the hiring process should be fair. He agrees that there is a teacher that they shouldn't hire, and Sun Soon somewhat accusingly asks if it's someone who started a rumor. Teacher Yoon gives him an encouraging nod to continue, so he shares that a short-term teacher got hired through nepotism. Teacher Jang's waiting at a cafe, annoyed that the other short-term teachers left their group chat. Her uncle joins her to discuss the upcoming open recruitment process. Administrator Yu had overheard the principal saying that Daechi High will select 15 teachers in the first round, which will be a fairly simple essay-based written exam. When she makes it to the second round, Administrator Yu can use his influence to seal the deal. He informs her that she needs to pass no matter what, because the Office of Education is stepping in next year to refer teachers instead of letting the school control the hiring. Teacher Moon continues that they can't let a teacher like that get hired, since it'll reflect poorly on the school. He urges Sun Soon to put her personal feelings aside. She concedes, and immediately shares her plan. They'll request to revise the written exam for the first round. When Hae-nyul gets dropped off at home, she and Hwon bid farewell and share a moment. They each seemingly realize that from today on, they'll be competing for the same position. At school the next day, Myung-soo finds it odd that Sun Soon met up with Teacher Moon when they're not on good terms, wondering what prompted her to get involved in school politics. Yeon-woo is sure that it must be important, quoting Sun Soon's mantra, "A teacher should be more interested in teaching students than in politics." Myung-soo firmly believes that Sun Soon will be on Team Hae-nyul if it comes down to choosing between her and Hwon. After all, Hae-nyul's been trained to become the second Sun Soon. The department heads gather and Teacher Han notices that Sun Soon arrived with Teacher Moon. They enter the meeting room to find the chairman chatting with Administrator Yu. There's some underlying tension as Principal Byun gruffly announces that they're holding a meeting, and Administrator Yu sees himself out. During the meeting, Teacher Moon proposes Sun Soon's idea of lowering the amount of teachers passing round 1 from 15 to just 5. Additionally, they want to change the format to a mix of CSAT and certification-style questions. Sun Soon jumps in to explain that creating a more difficult exam will ensure the skills of the teacher they hire, since it'll be easier to gauge their abilities. Even Teacher Cha chimes in to say that the reason they're entrusting their hiring to the Office of Education next year is to fairly hire someone skilled. The chairman isn't fully convinced, wanting to sit on it. Teacher Yoon appeals with nostalgia, gently reminding him that they worked hard together to get the school to where it's at now. She openly supports the teachers, good-naturedly chuckling that they should definitely try it if this method will bring the best teachers to their school. Her words sway the chairman, and he allows the revision. After the meeting, Teacher Song pulls Teacher Han aside to say that Hae-nyul would be the top candidate for the Korean position. She thinks it'll be difficult since there's Hwon, and he wonders who they should root for. Teacher Han shrugs that they aren't in control anyways. Teacher Moon and Sun Soon are. One set to become the vice principal, and the other worked closely with both teachers in question. That being said, Hae-nyul will still need to do well in order to be backed. Teacher Han thinks this revision is good, it'll prevent them from getting audited. The teacher certification exam took place a week after the CSAT, and the Daechi High written exam was held a week after that. Hwon and Hae-nyul both work hard and make it past the first rounds of both exams. At the news that the Hankook University results are up, Jae Hyun leads URA to the office with their classmates following behind. Principal Byun also gathers around with other teachers. In this moment, everyone's united as they nervously hope for their 2 medical school prospects to succeed. Taking a collective deep breath, they prepare themselves for Jae Hyun's results. They all scream in excitement, and Jae Hyun's unable to hold back his tears as they celebrate his acceptance. Yay! They calm themselves down for URA's, giddy at the thought of sending 2 students to such a prestigious school. Unfortunately, she doesn't make it. URA slaps on a smile and pretends she's okay, but when she leaves the office, she trails behind her classmates and allows herself to cry. Jae Hyun hangs back, staying with her as she sobs. Hae-nyul narrates that the kids were fighting a fierce battle in the land of college applications, but the teachers were also working hard. Hae-nyul studies at a cafe where URA works, and is given a drink and snack on the house to cheer her on. Myung-soo starts a conversation with Yeon-woo while doing his business in the restroom, to Yeon-woo's disgust. The second round of exams is being held, and all Korean teachers must be in attendance to evaluate the candidates. He asks Yeon-woo if he was nervous when he took the exam 4 years ago. In typical Yeon-woo fashion, he says he was unaffected, which gets Myung-soo to groan, "Enough with your narcissism." Although Myung-soo is still confident that Sun Soon will support Hae-nyul, Yeon-woo isn't so sure. Hae-nyul is deeply focused on work despite her interview drawing near. Myung-soo reminds her to head downstairs and she realizes that he's aware that she's applying for the permanent position. He wishes his dearest junior alumna good luck, but she says that her chances of making it aren't very high. Still, she promises to do her best. Hae-nyul joins the group of applicants and one of them notices that Hae-won and Hae-nyul are wearing indoor slippers, accurately guessing that they're both short-term teachers here. She wonders if the school already has someone in mind. They face a panel of Korean teachers and Sung-soon is reminded of the time she found Hae-nyul alone in her classroom with her fists clenched at the beginning of the year. Each teacher will have 20 minutes to prepare a lesson plan and 10 minutes to teach. They'll proceed to do a group interview once all mock lessons are completed. Hae-nyul and Hae-won both do a great job, their lessons are easy to follow and both are taught in their own styles. Yi-boon practically shoots hard eyes at Hae-nyul, proudly smiling as she watches her teach. The interview goes off without a hitch and Principal Byun asks one final question: why do you want to be a teacher? Hae-nyul answers, because the kids are adorable. She thinks about them even when she's not at work, and it makes her want to stay at the school. Her answer resonates with Hae-won, who smiles as he listens. He shares that he used to cause a lot of trouble back in high school, but is here because of his kind homeroom teacher from back when he was a second-year student. Hae-won doesn't look directly at him, but this impactful teacher seems to be Teacher Moon. Before the interview ends, Sung-soon wants to know their thoughts on an advanced club for top students. Hae-won believes it's inevitable for a school located in Gangnam to pay special attention to top students. While it is unfair, the school needs to survive first by increasing their acceptance rate, so they can't be blamed for starting the club. Unsurprisingly, Hae-won and Hae-nyul are the top applicants, with Hae-won beating her by a mere 0.2 points. Hae-won scored the highest on the written exam, while Hae-won did better on the mock lesson and interview. When Sung-soon is asked for her opinion, she says that objectively, Hae-nyul should be hired for her higher written exam results. However, she personally advocates for Hae-won, who'd survived 6 years at their school and whose effort they can't ignore. Yeon-woo disagrees. If they're audited, the most objective part of this process is the written exam. Yi-boon nods along as he says it's unfair for them to not pick the teacher who scored the highest. The higher UPS addressed Teacher Moon, who shares, "I struggled with whether or not to tell you this. It's about the rumor regarding Hae-nyul and I, causing everyone to shift uncomfortably." Hae-nyul helps Young-suk out at the restaurant. She sighs that she failed to pass the teacher certification exam by 0.5 points, but Young-suk is proud of her for making it that close to the cutoff. Hae-nyul's disheartened that Teacher Jang will get a permanent position, while she will probably fail. Young-suk yells at her to snap out of her funk and think about the kids, commenting sarcastically that they'd be thrilled to hear their teacher giving up on them. This strikes a nerve with Hae-nyul, who storms out without a word. Young-suk chases after her with a box of kimchi, but Hae-nyul doesn't turn around despite her name being called. When she does turn, it's because she heard a crash. A scooter knocked Young-suk down. When everyone heads home, Teacher Yoon compliments Teacher Moon for being mature earlier. He'd addressed the rumors head-on, denying involvement with the hiring of short-term teachers. He vows to keep it the same way this time around, and votes for Hae-won, whom he believes is the most skilled for this position. Hae-won's capable, experienced, and can hit the ground running. Yeon-woo objects again, bringing up the written exam. It'd be fine if Hae-won placed second, but his score was the lowest amongst the 5 candidates. If audited, it poses a problem because Hae-nyul placed first. Teacher Yoon comments that Teacher Moon did a great job for not revealing that Hae-won spread the rumors. Teacher Moon admits that he suddenly understood why Hae-won acted the way he did, knowing that someone really did get in through nepotism. On graduation day, Myung-soo gossips that Teacher Jang didn't make it past the first round and thus, didn't get the job. Teacher Yoon's invited on stage to say a few parting words before retirement. She shares that time has flown since she first started teaching at 29 years old, joking that if she knew time would pass so quickly, she'd have fought less with Principal Byun. She sometimes wonders if she was a good teacher or not. She thought she'd be able to define what constitutes as a good teacher by the time she retires, but deadpans, darn it, I have no clue. Thanking her students and colleagues, she reassures them that she's going to be fine and feels liberated. She's met with a standing ovation from teachers, and it's clear that she's loved by everyone. She enjoys tea with the principal one last time before leaving. He's obviously sad to see his friend go, reminiscing that back in the day, she had as much of a temper as Sung-soon does. She leaves him with the advice to be friendlier to get his juniors to like him. "I'm sure it hurts you more than anyone. Didn't you know how lonely it'd be up there?" He didn't. Despite not being a principal, Teacher Yoon was at peace and enjoyed her time here. The advisors returned to work and Yeon-woo gives an update on URA. She didn't get accepted anywhere for early acceptance, so she'll apply to Hankuk University again during regular admissions. The permanent teachers will be announced today. Myung-soo's still sure that Sung-soon nominated Hae-nyul, but Yeon-woo breaks it to him that she voted for Hae-won. Sung-soon maintains that she only looked at skill, and Myung-soo can feel the tension when Yeon-woo curtly brings up the written exam scores again. Hae-nyul visits Young-suk at the hospital, who tells her to get her act together. She's still impressed that Haniel came so close to passing the certification exam, and asks if she's happy at that school. Haniel beams that she is, and Young-suk quickly ushers her to head back to school when she notices a young man approaching. Vice Principal Lee shares the permanent teacher results with Teacher Moon. The foundation board members had to get involved to make the final decision. We don't hear what that decision is, but Teacher Moon believes for Hwon. Hwon's desk is already empty, he's just left the building. Teacher Moon spots a pair of slippers on the floor and grabs them, frantically running outside and calling Hwon, who has flagged a taxi and takes one last look at the school. Teacher Moon chases after the taxi, though he is unable to catch up. He thinks back to when Hwon was a student, and they'd both been so happy that Hwon was accepted into a good program for education. He snaps back to the present when he hears Hwon calling him from a distance. He'd noticed Teacher Moon after all. Emotionally, he calls out, "Hwon," and I'm in tears because he usually refers to him as Teacher Ji Hwon. Teacher Moon sounds so innocent and relieved as he runs towards his former student. Teacher Moon apologizes and tells Hwon to at least get into another school. He's genuinely happy to hear that Hwon applied to other schools just in case, and sends him well wishes. Hwon reveals that the slippers Teacher Moon has been waving around aren't his, haha. His voice breaks as he asks for a hug. These past 6 years have been extremely difficult, tears falling as he's comforted by Teacher Moon. Haniel sends her class off, with URA crying that she'll definitely come back and visit. Jae Hyun echoes that sentiment, which brings up the mood of the entire class. Haniel waves goodbye and as she watches them leave, realizes that they've really grown up. She looks back at the school and narrates that it's strange how this very moment, when her students left and called her teacher, is the moment she became a true teacher. She has decided that the society's views on permanent and short-term teachers are no longer able to control her. We pan over to her open laptop and are finally privy to the results of the open recruitment. The Korean department will not be hiring anyone.